The views and opinions expressed in the following program are those of the hosts and guests, and not necessarily those of the staff or management of Worldwide Digital Broadcasting Corporation.
Knowledge is power, and this is powerful stuff. Wellness Education Cannabis Advocates of Nevada present the We Can 702 Nevada Cannabis News Hour with the We Can radio team. For the next 60 minutes, we'll take an in-depth look at the cannabis reform revolution sweeping the nation. Now, let's fire up the news hour. Here is the We Can radio team.
Good afternoon and welcome to another edition of the Nevada Cannabis News Hour. I'm your host, Mike McAuliffe. With me in the studio, as always, my co-host and friend, Perry Heitzu. How you doing today, Perry?
Very, very well. Happy Independence Day to you and happy Legalization Day.
Happy Independence, happy Legalization Day. This is really, an historic time here in the state of Nevada. And, I guess unless somebody's been in a coma for the past few days, you'll know that cannabis is now not only legal for personal possession in the state of Nevada, but the dispensaries, the MMEs, are now allowed to sell it. And boy, were they ever. There's been a big hoopla. And it really amazes me, Perry, that so many people, I've been watching a lot of media stuff on this, and all these guys now are having fun with their pot jokes, and they're taking a lighthearted approach and all this sort of stuff.
Yeah.
And it used to be, oh my God, this terrible demon weed and all that stuff.
Absolutely. The media narrative has changed very dramatically, very quickly. It almost seems like the coin has just instantaneously flipped on July 1st, and it seems, like you said, everyone's very jovial, very kind of jabbing it, every very fun-loving, whereas before, even the newscaster is very hesitant, very, distant, hands-off kind of approach with some of these issues. Even with the grow tours, they're like, oh, like, what is this? And I don't know about all this. But now, hey,
everybody's cool and with it.
Yeah, the gloves are off. People are coming out of the cannabis closet, I would suppose, and finally expressing their true feelings and newfound freedoms.
Yeah, and everything that I hear was a very busy weekend in Las Vegas.
Oh my God, the lines!
The lines were so bad. I hear that you took a wrong turn and wound up in California.
Yeah, yeah. I heard some shops were approaching 2, 3, 4 hour lines.
Indeed.
Toward midnight there on the day of, on Saturday morning or Saturday night. It was just. Predictably,
it looked like any other Saturday night on the Strip or Friday night on the Strip where you got a lot of people standing in line to get into the clubs and stuff. But this was a club of a different sort. I actually went to 3 dispensaries, stopped by on Friday night, and the first one that I went to was the largest building in the state of Nevada for cannabis now in general, which is Reef, which is down right behind the Spearmint Rhino. So I guess that made a nice, close, easy trip for people. But I got down there probably 20 to 12, and their building is 165,000 square feet. So it's that's about 2.5 times your average Kmart, and so
holy cow,
yeah, and so when I got there, the doorway was the entrance to the dispensary was kind of in the middle, and all the way down to the other end of the building, there were people online, and it wasn't just 1, 2 people, and then the next. There were groups of people, so that line was 5 or 6 people thick and going back to the end of the building, and it was tremendous. Friend of the show, Tick Sigerblom, was down there, and we were in there watching. He was
also making the rounds, I believe that.
He was. He also did 3 dispensaries, other ones, but he bought the first legal marijuana purchase in the Reef dispensary, because I'm sure there were simultaneous ones going on all around. But he bought some Sigerblom Haze. Okay.
Predictably. Okay.
That makes sense. But I saw a lot of other people down there. Scott Rutledge was there, who was the leader of the Question 2 initiative. He ran the campaign. Leslie Boxscore, who is part of Electrum Partners and is a venture capitalist in this area now, was down there, and any number of other people. And boy, it was crowded. It was busy like crazy. So after that, I swung by M. Jordan over on DI and Pecos, and There were probably only about 50, 60 people online there. It was not a really big line. And the one thing I observe about that place, M. Jardin, is it's kind of interesting that there's a medical marijuana dispensary, because that absolute space in that facility, that suite, was previously occupied by an unsung hero of this movement, a fellow named James Edward Tennell, who was a doctor, and he was one of, if not the first doctor in the state of Nevada who began writing recommendations for the medical marijuana program back in 2001, 2002. Wow. And so he had been doing this steadily for years, and pissing people off, especially the DEA, and eventually they came in, and because of sloppy record keeping, and here's a guy who's 75 and has been practicing for all these years and has mixed staff coming in and out, just a little practice, but they faulted him on his record keeping and locked him away in a federal prison for 2 years. So, but nonetheless, he is out now, and that space, has something of a historic impact. The third space, go ahead.
No, go ahead. I'll finish afterwards. It was just, well, okay.
Yeah.
On Facebook the other day, of course, it's just been inundated with these stories from all of the news outlets, 3, 5, 8, 13, Sun, Review Journal, etc. Everyone's covering the story. It's the hottest story of the month, the hottest story of the summer. And it showed a picture of Senator Segerblum at, I believe, the Source he might have stopped at or something like that. And one of these comments, this lady was like, how shameful. He should be arrested and thrown in federal prison because he's an elected representative and things like that. And I'm like, how pathetic are the statists in this country to where the people of this state voted on behalf of this bill, and we're now calling openly for the federal imprisonment of our hero legislators who put themselves out there on behalf of this new and burgeoning movement? What the fuck is wrong with people?
And that's just for she wants to do this for people like Senator Segerblum, who are just buying it and presumably smoking it.
Yeah, that's exactly what she was like. Oh, like he just violated federal law and blah blah blah. And I'm like, are you kidding me right now? Like, how do we break people's statist mentality, even in the face of overwhelming evidence?
I don't know, but here you have people who are saying, oh, they should be locked in federal prison, while you have others,
most likely people who have never spent a day in jail in their fucking lives, giving away years like they're giving away candy. First of all, if they would spend one night behind bars, they would change their tune. But that's just another story for another day.
Nothing gets said about other people, including Clark County 8th Judicial District district judge, who is a part owner in an MME over there on the east side.
No, of course not. He always stays quiet, though. You know what I mean? Segerblum's out in public. Well, he's the face of the business, etc. He's an easy target.
She's married to a high-power political. Well,
oh, I know the story. Yeah.
Anyway, so but I'm not trying to get more people in jail. But the third place that I wound up going to was Shango over on Boulder Highway, and when I stopped by there, and by the time I got there, it was probably closing in on 1:30, and there were still, I would estimate, about 300 people online. It was just incredible.
I heard they ran out of edibles, not flowers, but.
Well, Shango or just
one of these dispensaries? It might have been Shango.
I don't know. I haven't heard anything of that. I did speak with an owner of another dispensary, and they said that in that 3-hour window, they did $20,000.
It's incredible.
It's just
incredible.
And apparently the pace is keeping. That's $7,000 an hour. So
big holiday weekend, 200,000 tourists in town. Very good timing to get that going this weekend for sure.
Absolutely true. Absolutely true. So I mean, this is all good, and saying they're making that kind of money, that doesn't bother me. We have been fighting for years and years to get a legitimate marijuana industry into the state of Nevada, so I don't begrudge them any monies that they're making, because all of these places, these people risk millions of dollars, and it is still federally
and their freedom
illegal.
Oh yeah,
it could still all go down.
There's still a little bit of I guess so-called fake news running around there also. I saw on a couple of the national, I guess, stoner forums that are on various social media platforms. This picture has been going around that's been posted by the Las Vegas Review-Journal that was quoted on a couple of the local news stations, and it said $80 eighths for recreational cannabis, and that's nonsense. You know, I've seen people on my personal page that have gone and gotten $30, $40 eighths from these stores, and I feel like even still today, like maybe they're trying to misinform people purposefully, or they're just not doing their diligence and misreporting it, or whatever the story is. But
dispensary in Denver, the going rate for cannabis gram rate was $10, $15, $20 an ounce, but generally around $15 an ounce, which coincidentally is $420. $15 a gram is $420 an ounce. But there was this one fellow who was selling a strain called Diablo, and he was getting $35 a gram for it, and that's $1,000 an ounce.
That's incredible.
And he was just doing it through, I guess it was really good pot, but he was just doing it as an add-on. His customers come in, oh, do you want the very best? This is the most phenomenal thing, and you can only buy a little bit of it. So
stupidly enough, when I used to work at a dispensary, we had a similar problem. If you took the same, let's say Diablo OG for an example, and you put it on the shelf at $40 or $35 for the whole eighth, and it just kind of blends in, and then if you put it on the top, that same weed 3 days later at $60 an eighth, and you say, look, this is our private reserve, you better believe people are going to take a second look at it and most likely buy it, because I feel like people want to believe that they're getting a premium product, and they're willing to pay a premium price even for the idea or the feeling of getting a premium product, regardless of whether they are getting something very special or not. It's just
why
something
people buy Stoli over Smirnoff.
Sure.
Yeah.
It's just, I kind of drink a lot, so I could fight you on that one. But yeah, but still, like, it's just one of these things.
Some people buy it.
Okay, I just feel like these people are tapping into that business sense, and rightfully so, and they're taking advantage of that mindset that people have, where they really want to get something special and exclusive.
Good things that I noticed standing outside of these places was that none of them on the property line, and now in these 3 places, I saw well over 1,000 people waiting online. I didn't smell any pot smoke. I mean, nobody was smoking in public. Nobody was doing what they weren't supposed to. And in fact, the paper reported a couple of days later that Metro has said that they had no arrests related to this. There were no incidents. There were no problems. So the idea that people would say, "Oh my God, legalize pot and the sky's going to fall," hasn't fallen yet. So that doesn't surprise us.
Those pot-headed zombies were able to keep their wits about them, at least for that night.
I guess so. But overall, this is a good start for the state. It's a good step forward for personal liberties. And
absolutely, it is. And I guess the next step is hopefully getting some consumption areas allowed, so we can actually get some of those, some of these things cleared up for these tourists. Because according to
we don't have a study on this today, Denver is now has now released the first set of regulations for consumption lounges. So we will see that happen, I think. I think we'll probably see it before the next legislature. They're going to figure a way to get around this because it's just too much money.
I hope so, and it's a conundrum that a lot of these people are putting themselves in, because according to this study that I'm looking at right here, the governor's task force estimates that up to 63% of recreational buyers in the state of Nevada are going to be tourists with nowhere to go. So, with how many visitors did we have last year? 43 million or something like that. That's a lot of people coming in that are, even if 1% of them decide to smoke, that's a lot of people we got to take care of.
And I put forth the argument that if you're giving people the access to buy something and they want to buy it, and then you're not giving them anywhere legal in the state to smoke it while they're visiting, you are encouraging and becoming an accessory before the fact of their transportation of that material back over state lines to wherever their home state is.
Well, what people don't realize is what they're going to do is, because you get the examples are countless, and I'll just run through 2 real quick.
Sure.
When I was a youngster, a very young person, 13, 14 years old, everyone was into skateboarding, and we all skateboarded. There were no skate parks, so we would go to schools, libraries, public parks, etc. And sometimes the park police would come and say, "Hey, you little bastards, get the hell out of here. You're fucking up our park," which, to be true, we were. So finally, the city leaders got together and said, you know what, we're going to start spending money and building skate parks. And the problem went away instantaneously. They started congregating at skate parks. You didn't see enough damage. The parks were for the kids. The skate parks were for the skaters. Life is good. It's purpose-built just for them. Why would they not want to go there? So now let's flash forward a few years. Street racing was a big problem in Vegas forever. Kids were dying. You know, tickets, bad things were happening. Big epidemic. And then couldn't figure out what to do. You know, let's grind them harder. No, what we're going to do is we're going to go the other way. We're going to open the speedway and do Midnight Madness and open the drag strip up. Problem went away instantaneously, overnight. Now, you see a little bit of it now, but still, it took forever to come back to where it is.
But the point is, you're always going to see a little bit of it. Whatever it is, there will always be a few outliers, a few rogues. But if you're eliminating 98% of the problem,
you're doing a great public service.
Success.
You're doing a great public service, for sure. And now, if we can take that same attitude and apply it toward recreational cannabis, I think we could see similar results. Because what you're doing by disallowing it, people to do it everywhere, is they're just going to go ahead and do it everywhere. In the casino, outside, inside, everywhere. And there's going to be arguments and this, that's going to take up security resources, police resources, etc. And that's where the complaint is going to come from the resort association, is they're going to say, well, our security officers are dealing with this in a disproportionate level and da-da-da. Well, what you don't realize is you had the opportunity to do something with this, ignoring the past examples.
Right.
But we'll see what comes of this. But
we've got another story about gaming regulators, and they're
the worst.
They're just not happy with this at all. And
the Gaming Control Board is by and large appointed by the governor.
Right.
A lot of these guys on the commission and the control board right now are LDS Mormons, which there's nothing wrong with that in and of itself.
Right.
But they were put there because of favors. They were owed, and they got it, and this and that, which once again is fine. But
it's called politics.
People with overwhelming religious dogmatic reservations shouldn't have a say in the way that our state conducts business, because they're bad for business. They're bad for the gaming floor, and they're bad for cannabis. They're bad for business overall. Example, if I have a casino in Temecula and one here in Las Vegas, I can get those brand new slot machines I see on the Gaming Control Expo to the floor Temecula because the regulations are less cumbersome. Now, that's no big deal, but it's just one more competitive advantage that they take away from us. And it's the same thing here. These people have no concept of cannabis. They've been brought up their entire life to demonize it, to hate it, to look down upon it because, you know, Joseph Smith or whoever said that it's evil, or their magic underwear told them not to, or whatever. But still, until he's out, until Sandoval's out and the new governor comes in and appoints a new gaming control board or starts to realize the damage they've done, this is not going to correct itself.
Unless I'm wrong, the everyone who has sat in the governor's mansion since at least the turn of the century has been a Republican. And so I think that what happens is, you know, the Republicans are naturally a little more socially conservative than the Democrats, and so I think you get that affinity going there, and they're just going to continue to put their cronies in. And you know, and this is, I'm not trying to push for Democratic
that might be true. That might be true. But to be fair, our medical marijuana bill in Nevada sat on the desk for all those years until a Republican legislature in 2013 decided to hear the bill. Now, they screwed us at the end.
Was the legislature Republican? I thought the Republicans took the legislature in 2014.
It was 13.
Okay.
It was 13. We had it. I mean, it was the House, all three houses, and they were the ones who decided to allow the bill to be heard. See, Republicans will hear Democrat bills, but Democrats, by and large, will not hear Republican bills.
I agree that in this past session, recently closed, of the Nevada legislature, that indeed happened. Michael Roberson, of whom I am no fan, had 17 bills, and only one was even scheduled for a hearing.
It just is what it is. It's the hyper-partisanship that we deal with in this country, and it's not good for business. It's just as simple as that. So, you know, here we are.
So with the Nevada gaming regulators, what they don't really know anything about it. So they had a problem, or they had a hearing late last month, and they had a couple of license applicants from Colorado, and so they were asking these people how Colorado deals with these things. And you know, it's good that they're trying to get outside information. You think they could go to the Colorado Gaming Board, but this fellow who is with Colorado-based Jacobs Entertainment said that marijuana is illegal federally, so we don't participate in the business. However, we have employees that can legally consume this stuff, so we treat marijuana similarly to the way we treat alcohol. That is, if we have an incident, we test for it, and just like alcohol, if there's some problem, they'll be disciplined accordingly.
There you
so,
go.
I mean, that's a common sense.
There you
approach.
go. Wow.
For
I mean,
cause testing, you know. So
see, that makes way too much sense to work here.
it does, and it really does. And we're going to take a break, but before we take that break, something you just said brings me to another story here, and it's U.S. Vice President Mike Pence.
Oh, Mr. Christian Dogma himself. Yeah.
Mr. Christian Dogma, and Pence, who calls himself a Christian, a conservative, and a Republican in that order,
yeah.
is a longtime critic of cannabis use. And I would say to Mr. Vice President Pence, this is a reason you should resign your office immediately. You know, if it may come as a surprise to you, the United States was formed as a non-theologically dominated country. We are a sectarian country. We do not espouse any particular religion. So if someone is calling themselves a Christian before they're an American, a conservative, he's putting his political parties and views before his Native American patriotism, and a Republican, once again, putting party before patriotism. And I will not deny that there are probably Democrats who are just as extreme as that, and I don't think we should have tolerance for these views on the left or right, because someone who describes themselves as several other things and doesn't even say an American or a patriot or anything like that, supporter of the Constitution,
you know, as a Christian, I would tell him that, you know, Jesus didn't tell you to hate cannabis, government did.
Absolutely.
And how the hell are you going to liken your
Yeah, taking your dogma and making that.
Well, how can you twist that holy book as you perceive it into something to support your statist views?
Yes, right. Yeah, taking you know, the New Testament in particular, and the love your neighbor, love your enemy, the whole thing, and instead taking that and using it as a means to repress people and try to put
the
them
Mormons
in jail.
take it a step further. They claim that Jesus taught in the United States.
Yes, I heard
I mean,
that.
if we're going to be arrogant and be Americans, I'll take that. Yeah, Jesus is American too. Fuck yeah, he's American. You better believe it.
All right. Well, we'll leave you with that thought, and then we're going to take a quick break and be right back.
Put her hand in mine and said she loved me so very long ago.
Hey, how's it going? You can just throw your name up on the list and we'll get right to you. Yeah, thanks, dude. Thanks for coming in. Let me just clean this spot up and then we'll get right to you. You can hop on up if you're ready. Welcome to the shop. You need a shave too, though, right?
I don't know if I would accept a shave from somebody who's unshaven.
I look like a child when I have a clean-shaven face.
No, I wouldn't want a child cutting my hair. And I'd also need to know that the blades have been sanitized thoroughly.
I can guarantee you that the barbicide is 100% authentic, and these are sanitized tools I'm using.
Well, what is the...
Have you ever gotten a straight razor shave?
Is there any other kind? Stuff smells like Irish Spring.
Brings me back to childhood.
Did you grow up in a chemical plant? Hurry up.
Yeah, well, you know. Now you look like $1 million.
Well, that's your job. I'll be sure and mention your facility during my show tonight.
And welcome back to the show. We started before the break talking about Mike Pence a little bit here, and he's not the only administration official who's been making news as of recent. Last week, Trump cabinet member, Secretary of Energy Rick Perry, former governor of Texas, was doing a news conference at the White House press briefing room, and he came up and with an answer to an unrelated question, and he said, I thought Colorado was wrong in allowing for the use of marijuana, which they've decided to do. But it's their call, says Rick Perry. I will defend that right robustly. That ought to be their call. And he was answering a question about a clean power plan, an Obama-era energy initiative, that deals with carbon dioxide emissions, but had nothing to do with this. And so he brought this up on its own. And he says, that's the beauty of all this. Allow Americans to pick and choose where they want to live and under what types of governments, and we'll figure it out. And he repeatedly pledged to defend state marijuana laws in his 2015 election campaign when he was trying to get the nomination for president. And he's not the only cabinet member who seems open to marijuana law reform. Apparently, Veterans Affairs Secretary David Shulkin said on last Saturday that the state legalization is leading to increased research on cannabis's potential benefits for military veterans in light of federal roadblocks. So it's interesting where you've got people on the Trump Sessions, or rather the Pence Sessions side of the argument in the administration, and you've got people completely on the other side. And it's not because they're fans of pot.
In my opinion, that's the real core of the Republican Party right there. Individual liberty, stay out of my business. You know, Rick Perry comes from the don't mess with Texas kind of way of thinking. So, you know, we would hope that that ideology takes hold of the party more than the conservative ideology, religious sectarianism that we've seen envelop the party over the past couple of election cycles. And I think it was Voltaire or one of these philosophers who said, I don't agree with what you say, but I'll defend to the death your right to say it.
Yes,
absolutely. So it's just like, you gotta, kudos to Rick for that one.
Kudos to Rick for this. Although I would ask him a question on what he said when he said, allow Americans to pick and choose where they want to live under what types of governments. Okay, Rick, I really thought that no matter where we lived, we're all living in a republic here in America, and I seem to recall a lot of people, especially from your party, getting all up in arms because they're worried about local school boards and governments enacting Sharia law by teaching this or that or whatever.
Yeah.
So I don't really think we get to pick and choose under what kind of government we want to live here in this country, unless we're going to talk about open rebellion. So just a little aside there, Rick. But
no doubt,
I appreciate
but they are
your sentiments.
Almost different countries in the way people conduct business. Like,
this is
America.
This is Mississippi.
I was just say the difference between California and Texas or Mississippi or West Virginia is profound, to say the least.
Indeed it is. So staying on a federal tack here in this segment, we have something that came out just a couple of days ago from Mike Bachara over at Hemp News, and the article says federal bills seek to reclassify drug possession felonies as misdemeanors. And on June 27th, Minnesota Congressman Keith Ellison, who coincidentally is the only Muslim who is elected to the U.S. Congress, reintroduced the reclassification to ensure smarter and equal treatment of Act of 2017, which is known as the Reset Act. The bipartisan legislation would reclassify specific low-level, non-violent drug possession felonies as misdemeanors. And on May 27th, Senators Rand Paul and Brian Schatz of Hawaii introduced the bill into the Senate, the companion bill for this. And, this is just enormously important because if we look at the drug war of the last 40 plus years, how many lives it's ruined, how much money it's wasted, what an awful thing it is. And the people who have suffered convictions under that, and here we're talking about possession convictions, low-level convictions. That felony, a federal felony, sticks with them for the rest of their lives. They cannot. It's not like you have a Nevada felony and you go to Maine and they don't really care much about it.
Or you can get it expunged in 10 years
Get it
or whatever.
expunged. Federal sticks with these people for their lives. It is an ongoing punishment that just never, ever ends. And so I support what Congressman Ellison is doing, as well as Senators Paul and Schatz, and hope that we can convince our Nevada legislators to get on board with this, because you know, whether it was a youthful mistake when you were 17 or whether it was a second a childhood mistake when you were 77, it doesn't really matter. These drug possession felonies have been ruining lives in this country for far too long, and this is the sort of thing, the Reset Act of 2017, that anybody who knows anybody who's been in this situation, start calling up your
Gotta take baby steps.
Take baby steps. Just take a baby step to your phone and call up these representatives and let them know how you feel.
That's it.
All right. Let's see. Where else are we going here? Staying in
my
the
favorite
Southwest.
state.
Arizona? Really?
I hate it there.
Okay.
Oh, that's my least favorite state.
Well, the Border Patrol, Customs and Border Patrol, are noting in Arizona that border ports, including 6 of them in Arizona, were among the busiest spots for drug smuggling, according to this new study. The report also showed a broad decline in marijuana-related arrests, which might indicate that legalization in some states has lessened demand for Mexican pot.
Oh, absolutely.
Meanwhile, arrests for harder drugs such as cocaine, heroin, and meth remained steady. And this was... You know, and it's interesting, this news piece originally came from a website called addictions.com, and you would think that they're going to be on the other side of the fence, but even they have to admit that some of the smoke that they've been blowing over the years
I even
isn't
heard
quite
that
true.
DARE, the drug abuse resistance education program that all the kids in elementary school were forced to go through between 4th and 5th grade, depending on where you are, has dropped their rhetoric about marijuana being a gateway drug in their official literature that they give out to these kids now. And I think that's fantastic, but I kind of feel bad because I saw these 2 girls raising money for DARE a few months ago, and I ripped them. I just tore them. I just
hope it
tore
wasn't
them
the
up.
same girls that I did that to.
It was in front of Kmart over on Buffalo,
okay,
and
no,
I was just grinding them, and they're
front of
just
a
like,
Lowe's.
"No, you don't understand." I'm like, "You're full of shit, and you're a liar, and blah blah blah." And now I feel really bad about it because I'm like, "Oh God, they were telling the truth, and I was just being a dick for no reason." But still, it's like
No,
I've
I'm
been
a dick,
so
it's usually for a reason.
yeah, I was just like so strongly passionate about that. Like when I saw that DARE logo, I'm just like, oh hell no, you're not back, not in my neighborhood.
You see,
But yeah, they're even they have admitted though, they're like, look, like it's not helping. So
but you know, and that's the thing where people on both sides of the issue are wrong, because we'll look at something, you know, and I've done the same thing. I see that DARE sign, and I'll just kind of mosey by, waiting for them to engage me so I can let them give them a few doses of the facts. But the thing is, you know, you look at that larger issue, DARE or the pot smokers or this and that, and then you rain holy hell down on those poor human representatives of it who are not necessarily
they're not setting policy.
Yeah, exactly. They're just frontline people who are making a few dollars, you know.
Yeah.
To get the
we're
message
getting
out
you know,
there.
whatever. Yeah.
So you know, so pot arrests are down on the border because we've got less Mexican pot coming in.
Oh, sure.
Because we've legalized pot in 8 states now.
Oh, absolutely.
Who would have imagined that such a thing could happen?
I follow this page called I think it's like federal something for immigration reform. It's an immigration reform page, and they always post, they're like, oh, we caught a bunch of dope on the border. These illegals are smuggling their dope in. One, it was a big seizure, like a couple 100 pounds of pot, and I'm like, that's great, you know, that takes money out of hardworking American growers' hands that are paying their taxes. And the admin's like, that's not exactly where I was trying to go with that, but we understand, and you know, thank you for your comment. And I was just like, well, you know, think about it a little. Yeah, I'm like, think about it a little bit. Like that's really the way I look at
American
it.
jobs.
Yeah, like if they're stopping hundreds of pounds of pot from coming in, good job, boys, keep it out because we don't want it. You know, give it back to them.
But I think the point here is that less pot is actually traveling across the border now because
of demand, yeah.
Because of and because of a legal supply, you know, and there are all sorts of cascade effects from changing legalization. And Philip Smith, who writes for Alternet and is just been terrific on drug issues over the years, has an article from last week called "Legalizing Marijuana Dramatically Reduces Traffic Stops," and the article begins that in states where marijuana has been legalized, traffic stops resulting in searches by state police are down dramatically, according to a new analysis from the Marshall Project and the Center for Investigative Reporting.
I imagine why.
Yeah,
just hand it right over.
With marijuana possession being legal, police in legal states can no longer assume criminal activity merely because of the presence or the odor of pot, which would have given them probable cause to conduct a search. And that means fewer interactions between drivers and police, reducing the prospect of dangerous or even deadly clashes. In Colorado, the number of traffic stop searches dropped by nearly 2/3 for whites.
Wow.
That's 58% for Hispanics and nearly half for blacks. So there still is a racial disparity there, but that's not the point I'm trying to make here. But just in general, you have fewer interactions, fewer searches, and fewer potential deadly results. And I don't want to get into Black Lives Matter, All Lives Matter, this and that. Sure, everybody is important and all that. And so anytime you're stopping anybody from potentially receiving a dose of law enforcement lead, I think that's a good thing.
Every potential interaction with government has the potential to boil down to violence, or every single piece of government, everything boils down to violence.
Sure.
And when I mean everything, I mean everything. I was listening to a guy talk about this, and he was saying, look, I get a parking ticket. Well, I'm not going to pay the parking ticket. Well, okay, well, we're going to fine you again. Well, fuck you. Okay, well, I'm going to call you to court. Well, I'm not going to go to court. Well, now I'm going to pull you over and take you to jail. Well, I'm not going to let you pull me over.
Right.
The escalation proceeds, and ultimately the answer is violence.
Yes.
Always. It's always violence with the state enforcement of our supposed societal beauty that we've created here. It's all about violence. This nonsense also is all about violence.
Yep.
I'm going to pull you over because it smells like pot. Well, I don't feel like having my freedom getting taken away and being kidnapped today. Right. Well, then I'm going to kill you.
Right. Exactly.
Well, what the fuck? So that's this is a wonderful, wonderful thing that we need to.
It is absolutely huge. And the thing is that I saw this article was on June 26th and I grabbed it up immediately. And then just this morning, I was searching for late breaking news here.
Boy.
And so we talk about police stops and reducing potential for problems. Okay, so here's a guy in Florida, and this comes from author Bonnie Christian at rare.us, a site I had never seen before until I got to today. And she was writing a story about a handyman, a fellow named Carlos Cash, and he just spent 90 days in jail when police decided that the white powder that they saw in his car during a routine traffic stop was cocaine. And we'll get over the fact that, how insanely rich would somebody have to be to just kind of strew cocaine around the car and leave it dusting all around, considering the prices that it's at. But
was he black?
No, well, Carlos,
because he just sprinkled it all over there. He's an idiot.
Maybe Carlos.
People are ridiculous.
But he said. Carlos told the officers, "I know for a fact that it's drywall because I'm a handyman."
Unbelievable.
And the officers didn't care about that, so they arrested him. They did a little field test there, and this white powdery substance tested positive for cocaine. So yes, they did arrest him, locked him up. They kept him in jail for 90 days. Now,
90 days.
I guess that means he probably didn't have, as a handyman, didn't have the
money to make
big
bail.
Money.
Right.
You go to jail on these things, and you see a judge, and they'll set bail at $15,000, $20,000, whatever. So if you don't have that cash, you're going to have to pay a bail bondsman 15% of that. And if you're just a handyman, you might not even have that $1,500, $2,000 to give the bail bondsman. So he's sitting in jail for 90 days.
3 months.
And you guys out there who are listening to this, watching, you know what happened. The lab test came back. Was it cocaine?
Of course not.
It was drywall. This guy,
one of these fancy $2 field tests that are once again costing us our most precious gift of Americans, which is our freedom, supposedly more precious than our lives itself is our freedom that they so willingly take away.
You know, and so the idea of reducing traffic stops because pot is legal is great because it reduces, you know, possibility of things like this. But I'll tell you
remember,
what,
if you want to get paid by the system, carry some baby powder around, carry some drywall around,
in the car.
Sprinkle that shit around. Yeah,
you know, and make sure you stop at Dunkin' or Lamar's or something and get some powdered donuts and eat them just before.
I've heard that they've thought that donut glaze
Yes.
was meth flakes or some ridiculous crap. I mean, this is why I remember a couple of years ago I was up at state legislature with Jen. We were trying to look at a DUID bill.
Yes.
And we were talking to one of the assembly representatives on the Judiciary Committee that was going to be hearing it in their committee room that day. And we were talking to him or her, and we're like, look, you know, we want to have the police do this, that, and the other, and we want to make sure that they have to prove intoxication. And she just kind of chuckled at me. And I'm like, well, why are you laughing? And she's just like, look, kid, let me break this down. Most cops that I've dealt with don't know the difference between someone who's drunk and having a diabetic episode. So now you want to give those same people the authority to determine your supposed level of intoxication just about how you look to them? Is that what you're asking me to do? And that's when I decided to not testify on behalf of the bill. At that exact moment, my mind changed.
That makes sense. Because it's not just donut glaze. In this article, they point to some of the previous tests that the police have conducted on various substances, arresting people, acne medication, household cleaners, soap, tea, aspirin, deodorant, chocolate, breath mints, and plenty more.
Do you believe
these all resulted in people going to jail over
because of
wrong results?
I also hear stories about customs officials at the airport discovered like a fucking soccer ball that was made out of cocaine, or like wine that had drugs in it somehow, or like all this crazy stuff. Do you believe that when these cops are sitting in these rooms and they're getting trained and they go through these little briefings or whatever, and they hear these stories, you know, that some of that mania that they have on a daily basis, what they've been indoctrinated with, has to account for some of what we're looking at here, I believe.
Especially when police performance is routinely monitored by the number of arrests that they make,
yeah,
the
sure,
number of encounters that they have. So it becomes an ongoing problem. We're going to take another quick break, and we'll be right back.
My name is Janine Evans, and I am the office manager at Getting Legal, and we help people get their medical marijuana cards. Anyone can be approved for a medical marijuana card as long as they have a pre-existing medical condition. The medical conditions recognized in Nevada include severe pain, severe nausea, muscle spasms, seizures, glaucoma, cancer, HIV or AIDS, and post-traumatic stress disorder. Our staff helps every patient determine before they come in for a visit whether or not they will qualify. We take care of the whole process of getting a medical marijuana card from the state of Nevada from start to finish. Our services include paperwork processing, a physician's visit, notary services. All of our patients pick up their approval letters right here in our office. We make it fast, simple, and easy. During your consultation, we will discuss different products available at the dispensaries, such as edibles, lotions, and concentrates. We will also discuss different ways to medicate, such as smoking or vaporizing. You will receive a separate identification card identifying you as a medical marijuana patient. This is used to enter the dispensaries and only to enter the dispensaries. Every veteran receives a discount off of the full price of their card. We also offer discounts to anyone working within the medical marijuana industry. All you need to do is call 702-979-9999 and a member of our friendly staff will help you schedule an appointment.
Back in our final segment of this week's Cannabis News Hour. I want to touch briefly on a neighboring state here, and we've talked about this story a little bit before. And this was the LDS Church weighing in on medical marijuana ballot in an initiative in Utah. And this is by Ben Winslow. And the Church of Jesus Christ of the Latter-day Saints could have a significant impact on the upcoming ballot initiative for medical marijuana in Utah. The LDS Church, which which weighs in on moral and social issues, has spoken out against recreational cannabis ballot initiatives in the past.
Just as they spoke out against Question 8, the gay rights ballot initiative in California, and successfully defeated it.
Absolutely. So they've come out with a statement here that says lawmakers across the country have wrestled with whether to legalize the use of marijuana for medicinal purposes. Discussion raises legitimate questions regarding the benefits and risks of legalizing a drug that has not gone through the well-established and rigorous process to prove its effectiveness and safety, and blah, blah, blah. Accordingly, we believe that society is best served by requiring marijuana to go through further research and the FDA-approved process that all other drugs must go through before they are prescribed to patients. All right. The FDA, the people who have given us fen-phen and Bextra and, oh my God, handfuls of other drugs which kill people, which absolutely, have unintended side effects, which are deadly and dangerous. And it's hard to go on to watch TV on any night now without running across a commercial that gives, a lot of fast talk and small print about all the side effects about their particular drug. And it amazes me how many of these, one of the potential side effects these days is death. And yet
death,
the FDA
blindness, paralysis,
is
whatever.
Okay with that.
Blood clots, etc.
Yeah,
heart murmurs.
And yet you have something which we have documented history now and archaeological studies showing human usage of cannabis going back 10,000 years. We still haven't been able to find a single death due to cannabis directly, due to an overdose of cannabis. Cannabis combined with stupidity? Yes. Absolutely. Stupidity doesn't mix well with anything. But, here the LDS is saying trust this government agency, which, by the way, has been persecuting Mormons and Mormon belief.
I was just thinking the same thing. I'm like, didn't the Mormons fight a war with the government?
Yeah, they did. They did. And so they're
but now
saying
trust the state.
Trust them. Now, internal polling by the Utah Patients Coalition, which is the group that is getting this ballot on this initiative on the ballot, said that their internal polling shows that 73% of Utah voters has said they would vote in favor of the ballot initiative, and that percentage squares nicely with what happened in Florida just last November. And so I think that is a pretty good indicator. So hopefully the church is not going to wade too heavily into this, because it just will open them up to so many charges of hypocrisy here. It's absolutely crazy. So
it's another potential revenue stream for their hypocritical church, like they own Pepsi and casinos and all kinds of crap. But hey,
Yeah, but yes, okay. I'm not going to get into a Mormon religious argument at this point, because I don't fully know the church. Now let's move down quickly to Florida. There's a fellow, John Morgan, down there, and he's an attorney, and he's the man who actually funded and was the impetus behind the Florida medical marijuana initiative, which just passed. And so the legislature, in trying to fulfill the voters' will from last November, has come up with their new medical marijuana law. And one of the things that it does not allow is smoking of cannabis. And the governor is all set to sign this thing and everything, but John Morgan, this attorney, immediately took to Twitter, which is the I guess the new poet's meme of the intellectuals, and he said, "Great Scott! I'll be filing my lawsuit for smoke as soon as it goes into law, because the current proposed medical regulations allow patients to ingest the drug via edibles, oils, or vaping, but prohibit smoking pot, and that issue has all the pro-pot activists way up in arms." And John Morgan says, I don't know what their problem is with smoke, but clearly it's the intent of the amendment, so I'll sue them to allow medical marijuana to be smoked. And the crux of his argument is the law says that marijuana cannot be smoked in public. All right, fine. Now, they're stretching that to say that means it cannot be consumed in smokable form. But if they're saying and make the law that it can't be smoked in public, then by definition, it can be smoked in private. They would just be saying otherwise it can't be smoked at all. So it'll be interesting to see where this goes. And it's just another example of so many of these legislators saying,
Just doing what
I've
they
never
can.
done it. I don't know anybody who does it. I don't know anything about it. So let's write a law.
Just doing whatever they can to put the brakes on it.
So John Morgan in Florida, kudos to you. Happy 4th of July, sir. Briefly here, as we're getting through
Winding
things,
down.
we looked at this one. What do you think about this? The PGA just announced that they're going to start a drug testing policy where they're going to start name shaming people who test positive for recreational drugs. That would typically be pot, I guess. And so formally they would have their own suspension and treatment programs and this and that and everything. But they've announced that they're adding blood tests beginning at the start of the new season in October, and they will disclose if a player has been suspended for violating that policy for recreational drug use.
Okay. When John Daly is still competitive
Mm-hmm.
and they're drug testing people for supposed performance-enhancing drugs, that's a bunch of bullshit. I mean, have you seen John Daly in his last? Still big dude, still smoking cigarettes, still doing his thing.
I don't even know who he is.
He is a super famous. He's a famous golfer.
Oh,
He's like a I don't give a shit kind of guy. Like, he smokes cigarettes. He's kind of rude. He's brash. He's like the John McEnroe of golf.
Oh,
but he's fat.
like Adam Sandler golfing.
But he's actually really good.
Oh, okay.
But like, when they're like, oh, like, we need to drug test everyone, it's like, that's complete nonsense. When you have really fit guys like Tiger Woods and John Daly can be on an even plane,
Yeah.
this is just looking for a problem.
Yes.
They're just looking for a problem. There's no such thing as a performance drug for bowling or for golf or for billiards or for darts or anything like that. There are certain sports where I can honestly say that you have a skill set and you can achieve, you can do very good. But this is just BS.
This is just, more social problems. They don't like what's going on, so they're going to shame these people.
Yeah, well,
So,
let's hope they get their
let's
crap
get that.
together. But before we roll real quick,
Yeah.
there's a story about California here from Temecula.
Yes.
That we touched on the basis of this a while ago when we talked about how the Wynn Resorts Corporation had decided to ban the Massroots CEO from gambling at their property because simply he doesn't sell pot. But because his company deals with companies who deal pot,
They write about pot, and yes,
then
sure.
that was too much for them, so they kicked him off the casino floor. Well, the guy who owned, Brad McLaughlin, the CEO of the largest online medical marijuana marketplace, BudTrader.com, has posted a passionate video to the brand's Instagram account @RealBudTrader, in which he calls for a boycott of Las Vegas, not of Wynn, of Las Vegas totally, which sucks, due to a Las Vegas casino's recent decision to ban Isaac Dietrich, CEO of Massroots. Now, he had a event planned here. He yanked it and took it to Pechanga Casino in Temecula, which is one of our direct competitors, of course. I don't like that.
Well, okay, but quickly, I don't like it, and that's why we brought it up here, because we wanted to say that, I think this guy is wrong, and this guy should not call for a boycott of Las Vegas. But you had the point that it's not really just Adelson or it's not the Wynn, that the general consensus of the gaming industry is going to be to
Park
push
Place
these people out.
donated money against it. Not Station Casinos, but Boyd Gaming donated money against Question 2. MGM Corporation donated money against Question 2.
This is a story we're going to follow up more. We're about out of time here. I just want to take a quick note here that today, July 3rd, is the 53rd anniversary of the signing of the Civil Rights Act of 1964, which was landmark in this country for many, many reasons, and it's something that just as I saw it, I wanted to make brief mention of it. Our Declaration of Independence says that all men are created equal, and the Civil Rights Act was flawed, but trying to move in that direction. So we celebrate that just as we are celebrating the 4th of July tomorrow, our Independence Day, and we hope that you're going to have a great time out there. Stay safe, stay sound. Stay safe, stay careful, and don't let anybody rain on your parade. This is still a great country. We love it, and we all continue to fight for it all the time.
It's worth fighting for.
It absolutely is. So we'll see you next time.